So finally, today is my chance and time to talk about this project that I had, a classic car W124. Why I wanted to talk about this car is because I think it's been some time. I thought that I should at least give a fair warning to anyone else who tries to walk on this path of buying a classic car and restoring it somewhat, right? So this is the car I have here. You can see, yeah, it's a W124 masterpiece, and yeah, just showing you. Okay, all right, so this is not the right lamp for this model. So we'll start with some of the things that you might not know and you might be caught. All right, we'll start with something as simple as this. So you see the fuel cap here. Let's show it to you, right? So this fuel cap, at this age, most of the time they are worn out, so I have to find a new one, and I have to buy this rubber specifically to replace it. And I've also replaced the fuel tank itself, right? So some of the things that with this rubber here and this rubber here, so these are signs of things that you need to check, because if this rubber worn, at least it's a sign that the user or the owner don't actually give a shit about it, right? So when I first got this, so this guy sells classic car, and he's actually also able to restore them. But when I bought it from him, basically he just got it from some kind of a datuk. So the thing about Malaysia is there's all kind of datuk, and sometimes we feel that we could get a very good buy if we find some datuk who abandoned their car somewhere. So there's this funny idea, but truth be told, this is a real situation whereby there's some kind of datuk with 6 of these cars, and I bought from that kind of purchase, right? And I was expecting that the car maintained by the datuk was supposed to be great. Okay, so as I said, it's 70% restored, and I'm not going to dispute that, but the other 30% is actually a lot of crazy work. So let's start by looking at some of the things that you should actually at least pay attention to when you intend to buy such a car. And my personal opinion is, don't buy. Whatever that's great about this car in terms of it being legendary and stuff like that is long past its prime time in history. So the thing about anything else in this world is you give it enough time and years, it will all rot and age, right? So one of the things you have to watch out for is, do not entertain the idea that you can buy a car and restore it, because there's so many things to restore. Just think about it. Every single rubber in the car needs to be replaced, which reminds me of this. So when I first bought this car, this thing was it didn't come with this chip download, right? It came with a Michelin. So I was thinking, wow, great, man, there's a Michelin in there. But guess what? I just drove from Klang and over to my house, and the whole Michelin is cracked up, because the datuk actually stored the car in some kind of condo. He stored it there and never used it, so only the mechanic drove it out and to service it. So the moment I took a longer drive, the new Michelin cracked up immediately, and I had to replace with these tires. So these are some of the extra costs you have to consider. Then we talk about this joker here, right? So this lamp here, make sure it's clear and clean and everything else. But you know, the light inside here, the bulb, most of them are pretty bad condition. In my case, I replaced it with the LED, and this LED is actually carrying a kind of a bit of a warm yellow light so that we can see in the rain. So don't get bulldozed by the funny idea that you can buy a LED that's pure white and able to see when it rains. You can't, right? And you can't buy cheap items on this as well. And I think you need to spend at least 80 USD or Malaysia ringgit, probably about 300 plus. If you buy some cheaper ones, it won't even last, right? You might as well put back the original bulb. All right, let's talk about this. Okay, so this wiper, right? This single wiper, of course, is very cool. I actually had to service this myself. As to open it up and do it myself. And what happened is, while I was driving, when I got the car, the thing died, right? It just wiped halfway and died. But it's not that anything is spoiled, it's that the lubricants in here That's been there for ages, that's not open. So when I open it, you can see some of the images that I shared. There was no lubricant left, and then things are like, I don't know, it looks more like moss or fungus or anything like that. So I cleaned it up, and it has been functioning perfectly since then. Then you see inside a bit here, I'm not sure you can see it here, right? So this one actually I need to open the bonnet and show you. It's a cabin filter. So this cabin filter has another story which I need to tell you, right? And this is also part of the pain of owning a classic car here. When you go and find these so-called seafood who says they are able to service this car or recommended by any user whatsoever, it often comes with two problems. One is the good ones are often so busy, they actually don't have real time to diagnose your problems or to look into your car problem. I'm serious. They just want to fix like major critical stuff, like if your car totally breaks down, your engine is not starting out correctly, so they want to solve that kind of problem. Well, simple problem which people like me are more particular, like if the engine is not smooth enough or it's not performing up to specs, like it's not giving me the kind of mileage I expect from a W124, so they're not going to entertain those kind of things. And the cabin filter is one example. I bought a cabin filter based on this car chassis number, but mechanic, right, or a very popular one somewhere in OUG was telling me that, yeah, your car don't have a cabin filter, but actually I found out it does have. It's just that it wasn't an interesting work for them to do, so they just don't want to do it. So this is another problem you're going to have. It's very hard to find people who are good to pay attention to the things you want to fix, and therefore you waste a lot of time doing it, right? So I found nearby, right, an accessory shop. The owner is like just having one or two staff, so he put up with a lot of shit with me in terms of doing these kind of stupid things, and I pay him well, I believe. But I can see a lot of people will be unlucky. They will actually go much further and try to get this thing sorted out, like even changing a cabin air filter. Who do you find? A scan to the car. Alright, so now that we are in the car, let me just start the engine here. Okay, so yeah, so this key here. So I guess, as you can see, it started pretty smoothly. This is just a handbrake sign here. Alright, and I also want to show you something closer. You notice that there's some kind of a, I don't know, fungus or something on here. That means this meter has been a long time and it's running on miles, and then there's a kilometer here, so there's two reading here. And yeah, so when I first got this car, right, and even though it's 70% restored, there's a lot of bullshit things which I need to clean up. When I say bullshit, means a lot of things which I thought was working but they are not. And all these vents that you see here, you need to thoroughly test them. How do you test them? Is that they must be able to move at least left, right, up and down. Okay, and this guy is supposed to be able to close it and open it, right? And all these crazy dials you see here, each and every one of them, right? So I replaced this one as well. Each and every one of them has to be working. So right now the only thing that is not working, which I will get it fixed 1 or 2 weeks, is the blinds, right? So I need to fix the blind because to me that's the last thing to restore to make this car a W124. Now you probably notice that this steering is supposed to be wood because it's a masterpiece, but this is not. Well, you look deeper here, actually the wood is underneath this hand stitch steering. And why did I did this? Actually, it's another dumb idea because I have no idea that the wood was so important, so I got it covered with a hand stitch leather, which is done by one of the shop I found. Those are examples, right, that if you're not familiar with it, you're not sure, right, you make one change and those guys don't tell you, right? Those interior, whatever you call that, people who do all these chairs and reupholstery, they don't tell you, hey, yours is W124 masterpiece, you shouldn't hide the wood. They don't tell you shit, all right? So they did it, and the process of doing it, he actually removed this steering, but he was so this is another guy, right, somewhere else, not the UG guy. This is more like the guy who did the chairs. And the process of putting this steering back, his staff, right, I think he hired some Thai staff and stuff like that, who doesn't understand the thing I'm saying. And the way he removed it, he somehow damaged my power steering It damaged the power steering component in the engine bay, and that has to be replaced a week after I got this thing done. So again, so you have to like check every single one of these valves, and these things, they are not cheap, right? Now I want to speak in terms of RM and USD. In USD, these things can easily cost you 70 to 100 USD ish, right? And this guy can cost you up to 150 USD, right, to get it replaced, to get a so-called new stock, or even those that's recon, as in those that they got from parts but in pretty beautiful condition. Okay, and I replaced this personally myself. Why? Because I just can't stand the bullshit I'm getting from those people who are supposed to help me in doing this stuff, in fixing the things like this, reupholstery them. Okay, people who are doing the upholstery, as well as the steering and all these things, supposed to be really professional people with 20-30 years of experience. And when I see them doing it and all the problem I get, I rather do it myself. So I end up, okay, let me just turn the camera towards myself because it's funny. So I end up being a guy who's supposed to be semi-retired, right, and doing a bit of IT and innovation project, things that gets me interested in, to spending some time learning up some mechanical skill to fix up things that you see here on the car, right? So really, you know, things which I don't even imagine I would have the skill to do it. I end up buying things from eBay, well, specific tools, just to remove these vents and to replace them. Then next, then you see here, so this thing has actually been I have sent it to fix. It costs around, well, that's the old price. It costs around 70 USD to fix it. Okay, but the new price will be more expensive. So basically I have to take this thing off, and each of this button that you see here, all right, you have to slowly detach from the board. Okay, because this board comes with some kind of a PCB board, plastic that's from behind, and these switch are basically those that you stick on it, right? You push it in, and you have to unplug each of them from this board, and you send this board to be refurbished, so to speak. And here's the story about this this gear knob here. So originally mine already have masterpiece. I said it's broken aside. So again, as I said, one of these upholsterer guy that I talked to, he was saying, so do you still want the wood? Like, how would I know whether I still want the wood or not? I wouldn't know how important it is. I said, I'll just cover it up. And he covered it up, and his staff basically covered it up with a red leather, right? So it looks really stupid. It's like black here, and then there's a red here like a clown. And again, these are some of the pain points that you will face if you try to do restoration in your car, because the people that you find outside, as I said, they're either too busy for it, or when they do it, some of them really do not have any common sense, right? So ultimately I have to buy a new one and replace it, because when they try to put the red leather over this guy, my previous one, they try and pry it, and they try to pry here, and basically the whole thing is gone, right? It's gone. So the right way to replace this is to have someone who has the tools to turn this part here, and then this guy can be pulled out. But there's a screw in here, right, which you don't touch. There's a screw in there, and then yeah, just have to put back a new one. But anyway, there's a lot of bullshit that we'll talk about. Then we have issue with radio, right? So if I were to turn on the radio, let me just show you this situation here. Okay, so this radio, can you hear that? Okay, so basically when it comes to radio, the reception is not good at all, right? I get some kind of coarse reception, and so the accessory guy said, why don't you change it to Blopang, right? I'm not sure I pronounced this correctly. And I did change it to Blopang, and guess what? Same problem. So it doesn't really solve anything, and you wasted a lot of money doing it. And all these speakers that you see here, these are the two front, and don't forget, they are the one at the back too. Those speakers, they actually fry because they put it under the sun. The Malaysian sun is like the king of the sun. So you're in the equatorial country, and this thing gets fried. So none of the speakers will actually last or work under the sun, and you end up replacing them. So these are again extra cost to you. And there's so much issue that I fixed personally until it becomes what it is today. Like these are even refurbished myself, right? So it's looking quite perfect, and I put cables and stuff in there. But every single power window that you see here, at one time, it only lasted like 1 or 2 weeks when I first bought the car, and then they are all dead. So right now I have restored all of them, and you can't find original, or it's extremely hard to find original, or you don't even want to buy original because it's so old. So you end up buying Taiwan. Now the good thing is the Taiwan one comes with the regulator. Alright, just showing you that it all works now. It comes with a regulator and the motor at the same time. So it's not really expensive. I would say it's around, everything is USD 70 for some funny reason when it comes to this type of W124 restoration. So I got it all 4 replaced. But think about the time you have to spend wasting your time going to these mechanics or accessory shop to go and open up the car doors. And these car doors, right, I can tell you one thing, I've got it open more than 7 times. I'm not joking. Each of these is 1 time. You can see, so that 4 doors has 4 times to replace the regulator, because the windows, all the motor will die at one point in time. And even if it's replaced by the owner, it probably lasts you maybe 3 or 4 years, and then you will die again. So you need to buy another one. So of course there are ways to maintain it. You have to exercise it sometimes, and don't over stress it. Make sure on the car here you put some silicone, right, to maintain it. But that's beside the point. Okay, so I'm just going through the list of crazy things that when I sit down here, I think about the things and the time I spend fixing it. So I'm trying to dissuade you to think that you can buy an iconic car like W124 in 2024, 2023. I got this in 2023. That you're going to get away with it. You're not going to get away with it, right? Of course, there's one caveat to this, and that is if you buy the car that's already fully restored. Okay, so somewhere down there, there's some jokers probably like me who spend a lot of time and resources to fix it up, and then we decided, okay, that's enough. I did it. It's my project. I'm going to sell the car off and hope someone will appreciate it. So there are people like that, right? I'm thinking along that line. So I'm sure there are people like that. But those are exactly the people I'm looking for initially when I wanted to buy this car, and I couldn't find them. Instead, I found several car owners who show me their W124 and it looks like shit. All right, I'm sorry to say that, but they can't even get this rubber looking right from outside, right? Or this pillar that they have here is broken, all right, and or maybe I don't know, right? Like in this case, all my power seats are working correctly. But it's quite amazing to see the power seats if you move them up and down, right? So it's like quite interesting. Even this guy can move, right? So those are some of the interesting things, right? See, so all my electric seats are working perfectly on both of them, and that's because inside this guy here there are there's something, basically not 2, but there are 2 sticks here, right? Inside here is a bit like a rail that I got it replaced as well. Do you think about replacing that when you look at the car? Of course not, but if you have a bit of OCD like me, you end up replacing them. So I'm trying to dissuade you, because if you're looking at my video, there's a chance that you've been watching too much bullshit on the internet about W124 and being iconic and stuff like that. I'm sure they were iconic in 1995, but a lot of these cars are actually at the junk level, right? I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of them are at the junk level, and it's gonna waste a lot of time, and it's not worth doing it. Go and get yourself a Toyota and be happy with it, because you're gonna save yourself time, and those time better spend with your wife, your girlfriends. And what I mean is, you have a wife, or maybe you have a girlfriend. I don't mean you have both, right? And you do it in your hobby, right? Could be photography, fishing, anything, right? Spend your time there and go and do some society enhancement work, society support the community, or whatever it is. Do some good works, right? Then spend your time sitting around, okay, doing remote work while waiting for your car to be fixed or to be solved by people who have no heart to solve it. Okay, so look at this, right? So this pillar, okay, is fiberglass, right? Because when I first bought it, this whole thing was there, but it's not fiberglass. It was the original plastic, which was already broken inside. Okay, which is crazy. And I got this replaced with a fiberglass, alright? Same with the other side, okay? I service this light myself so that if you open the door, alright, the lights will come out. Well, when they do come out, it's glorious. Okay, and this mirror is actually, you see there's a, you see here there's a bit of plastic left here which I didn't trim up. This one I bought from Alibaba in China and put it back up here. Okay, and when one of the accessory shop looked at it, he didn't know this was not the original. At some point in time he kind of yanked it, this thing fell down and hit my perfect refurbished item here. So there's a small dent here, not a big problem, but for OCD you find a piece of pain. And this glove box itself, this material that you see inside here is some amazing, okay, material from the 90s, that if you wet it in water it becomes super soft. So to remove it, there are some steps. You just go to Google and look at Pelican parts, how to remove the glove box. This guy, you need to tweak it, all right, on this screw. It's very easy. You don't need special tool. You can buy Mr. DIY something that looks like a plier with two prongs, and you just turn this guy and this thing can be adjusted so that this guy will fix perfectly in there, right? How do I know? Because I did it myself. Real pain in the ass. Now, one thing strange about this car that the seat belts are missing, okay, from both sides. So there's only left with the lap seat belt. Let me just remove it. Okay, so there's the lap seat belt is there, but these both seat belts are missing. Why? Good question. I have no idea why. Okay, why would anyone in the right mind remove the two seat belts? Just because in Malaysia we don't really use it, but they should at least put it hidden in the seat. I can find and restore it, but no, it's totally missing, right? So I have to buy a new one if I do it. So far I just don't see a need for it, but eventually the OCD is going to get to me and I might end up replacing it. Okay, so what else can I complain about this car? Let's see. Yeah, so when I first got this car, one thing I did was I installed the back sensor, because, excuse me, I don't be pulling my neck outside there and trying to look behind whenever I reverse, right? The world is a very different place in the year 2024, 2023 compared to 1995, where the roads are as big, where everything is as big and as empty as it is. But nowadays, everything is so compact. We have overdevelopment. Car parks are not getting any bigger, except in Pavilion maybe. And you need, right, if you don't want to ram to your neighbor's Rolls Royce, you need to park correctly. And I install a parking sensor. So when I first installed the parking sensor, guess what? It doesn't work, because between here, the front, okay, wherever this connector is on the gear, all the way to the back, it doesn't know that you're reversing. Okay, so something was disconnected. Now this one, I got it fixed in the OUG guys. Those two guys, well, they're genius in fixing things that are common, and they're genius in fixing some things, but they're actually quite lazy when it comes to fixing interior, which is one of the biggest problems I had when I bought this car from the Darwin, and he got it from the Dato, right? Is that most of the interior stuff here are terrible, right? Even this, and this is a popular one. You see this ear here? So I got this replaced with brand new original, okay? And even brand new original, it's not easy to put it back correctly, as in perfectly. Anyone can put it back just like that. And got it sprayed to the right color. So original, when I bought it, this car was some broken pieces of thing hanging down there. It looks like it was okay, but when you move it a bit, you find that, hey, there's something wrong. And when they open up, it's all this black glue sticking around. And same for the other guy. And then I found black glue here in the older van before I replaced it. I found black glue hidden inside somewhere here, trying to keep this side intact. So as I said, right, and there's black glue over here, the whole plastic, until I throw off the whole thing and replace it with fiberglass. And so, as I was saying, there are just so many things you cannot imagine that needs to be replaced, you need to attend it for. It's not worth doing it at all. Okay, that's my opinion. All right, you see a car outside there selling you for Malaysia ringgit, right? Which is around, let's say, 5,000 USD. Malaysia ringgit will be around 20 plus thousand, 22, 23,000. Most of those cars are bullshit, right? You find a car that's like Malaysia ringgit 10,000, that's like 3,000 or 2,500 USD. Don't even touch it, okay? Those cars, my goodness, you probably want to spend 4 or 5 times more in order to get it to be even what I have right now on this car, okay? So if you really want to buy this type of W124 car, okay, I would suggest, okay, as I said, buy a fully restored car, right? If the guy asks for 40,000, 50,000 Malaysia ringgit, which is around 10,000 USD, pay that price. It saves you time. You don't get into all this bullshit, and we haven't even talked about suspension, okay, undercarriage, rust and stuff like that. Now, to give credit to the guy who sold this to me and the datuk who maintain it, this is one part which is doing really well, right? So there's no rust on the car, undercarriage is very clean, engine and gearbox is well, near perfect, I would say. Okay, a lot of issues has not to do with the engine and gearbox, or more or less to do with things in between. And one of the most mysterious problem which I've solved is when I accelerate, right, it looks like it was dying and going and dying and going and dying. We know why, but you drive normally, you don't get that, okay? And that happened to be, has to do with the fuel tank which was replaced. So the fuel tank basically has an opening, and that's the opening is where you pump the petrol in. So that thing, for some weird, crazy, funny reason, it's not even, right? So the cylinder, right, that's facing outside where you pump the petrol in, is not even. So when you close the cap into it, all right, it doesn't seal off completely. So it's always leaking fuel, so to speak, all right? So you waste fuel in the economic side. And the fuel tank is so old, there's actually all these fragments inside the fuel tank. So whenever you accelerate, you try to suck the, you know, when you accelerate, let me just, I need to explain this while holding this, right? So when you accelerate, right, imagine there's this filter in there, right? This is your fuel tank and there's a filter in there, okay? So when you accelerate, it's pulling all the fuel in, but because there's so much fragment in there, it actually clog up that filter, so you lose power immediately on your car. And when you deaccelerate, all these filters begin to fall back into the fuel, and then it looks like you can accelerate again. So you can, all this kind of bullshit problem, mysterious problem, was solved accidentally by me, because I wanted to replace the fuel tank due to the fact that I can't close the cap correctly without fuel leaking, right? So like you drive certain corner, the fuel will leak out. So that's some stupid idea, and things which I don't bother looking, because I was told this is 70% restored. And how do you actually judge 70%? So my new definition is, if anyone tell you it's not 95% restore, don't even touch it, okay? Don't even touch it. I will actually end this video with some random images, pictures, video footages of every service and every part I've replaced in this car, okay? It's gonna be wild, right? So I'm gonna put some nice music there so you can see how much suffering I went through. And that's really on me, right? I really knew that it's not worth buying old cars to restore it, but my background is an engineer, okay? Basically a software developer, CTO, whatever you call that. So I'm actually very curious why people call this an iconic car, and I just couldn't stop myself from trying it out, okay? And looking into it, and I had to pay my dues for that curiosity, okay? But I'm creating a video to tell you guys, don't listen to all the bullshit you read online, all the YouTube that you see about 124 being blah blah blah. There's one guy in the YouTube called MWMA or something like that. That guy could actually disassemble an electronic component, put some wires through it, and can tell you whether it's working or not. Now those are the guys who are perfect guys with a garage who can restore cars like this, and people who can take up projects like this. Anyone else, if you're like me, right, and you live in Malaysia, you don't have a garage of your own, maybe you have, right? You didn't convert your beautiful house and your carport into a garage, right? Stop the idea, okay? These cars, some of these cars, they deserve to be dead and discarded, right? You should just let it be bygone, don't try and resurrect them, okay? And if you really can't, as I said, buy 100% restored, okay? Look into all the small things that I mentioned just now, okay? Test every single button you see here, right? I can tell you almost certain, any car that who says it's demystified, still working, is probably highly restored, okay? Because most of them don't work shit, okay? And this thing here going up and down behind is actually a special W124 masterpiece thing, okay? This is the last thing I'm going to restore. Maybe this will next week. Most of them don't work, so mine could go up halfway, but it couldn't cool down, so I'm not going to touch it right here. And you know, whether this is economic is working, I have no idea what it does actually even now, because Bye.